Invocation.
If you would, please bow your heads. Lord, as we enter this meeting, we ask that you lead us and guide us and give us the knowledge that we need to make good decisions for the people of Newberry County. Decisions, Lord, that will be most pleasing unto you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, a few of you decided, thank you for being here. Item number 2, general operating budget, county administrator and finance staff. I think Mr. Adams is going to the microphone so he can be heard clearly.
Yep.
Did you need?
Okay, everybody hear me? Okay, if it's agreeable to council, I'm going to start out talking about the general operating levy, but I want to weave into my remarks here a little bit of history. I think it's important to look at where we were, particularly 11 years ago, and where we are now. And I'll explain to you what I mean. Of course, in 2006, some of you might have been around during the Opera House tax protest. Well, that was the first year that I came here. It was my welcome to Newberry County. I certainly won't forget it, but I think it's important that none of us forgets it. And that we keep in mind who pays the bills here in Newberry County as the taxpayers. And of course, all of you, like me, we're taxpayers. We own property and pay taxes. So we have a certain amount of empathy for this naturally. Now, there are 3 levies that County Council has authority over. The largest of these by far is the general operating levy. Just to put this in the context, the general operating levy budget is a little bit over $27 million. The budget for community services is only $1 million and about $1.5 million for debt service. So of the 3 levies that council has control over, the big one is the general operating levy. Right now, that budget is balanced at $27,038,791. Of this amount, about $17.7 million will come from property taxes. To be specific, $17,744,534. Now, we have projected the value of one tax mill for the new budget year at $145,447. How did we get there? Well, we looked at the tax collections to date, and we're pretty much through the revenue collection cycle at this time, so it's easy for us to pinpoint what the value of a mill is on a collected basis. We had said during the budget time that it was $141,755, but on a collected basis, it's about 1.1% higher than that. It is actually $143,298. And the history of Newberry County says that in a non-reassessment year, we generally add about 1.5% to the mill value. So that's how we get to the projected mill value of $145,447. Now, recall that I said that the budget for general operating is balanced. It's balanced at 122 mills. We know that because we divide the property tax needs, which we mentioned at $17,744,534. We divide that mill value of $145,447 into it, and that's 122 mills. That's the same levy as for the current year. That means, as proposed now, the general operating budget, there would not be an increase in taxes. It would be the same as the prior year. Now, we have to look at the other 2 levies. We don't see an increase in the community services levy either, but the place where we see the increase is in the debt service levy. We'll talk about that a little bit more specifically later. I said we would talk a little bit about the history of property taxation here in Newberry County. I want to direct you to the first exhibit in your handout, which is called Exhibit 1, Millage Levy History Since 1990. Has everybody got that? It should be in a little packet that's right in front of you. It's got these stripes on it. You can identify it this way. I want to make sure everybody's there first because we got some important, one before that, Mr. Scurry.
Like this. There you go.
There you go. Okay. First of all, reading this, this chart or spreadsheet, all the years that have are highlighted in yellow are reassessment implementation years. Okay. Beyond that, we have this. We have 22 years of this millage history divided into two distinct 11-year blocks. Since in 2008, we had the highest millage levy in the history of Newberry County. 159 mills. That is the highest combined millage ever levied by a county council, 159 mills. What has happened since then? Well, since that time, up until 2019, we have seen a drop of 23 mills over that period. That means that on average, since 2008, the millage has been decreasing. The millage levied by county council has been decreasing by about 2.1 mills every year. Let's go up to the block of 11 years before that time. We're talking about 1998 to 2008. During that 11-year span, we saw a millage increase of 69 mills. And whereas over the most recent 11 years, we were going down 2.1 mills per year, in that 11-year span, we were going up an average of 6.3 mills, an increase average of 6.3 mills per year. So it's clear that the county council has changed the direction of the tax millage dramatically in the past 11 years. Okay. So what we have to solve is this 2.7 mil problem that we have with the debt service levy, if indeed we're going to either keep taxes flat with no increase or reduce property taxes. And we're going to have to look to these other levies. To the taxpayer, a mill is a mill is a mill. There are 3 levies that council controls, and the combined total is what the taxpayers look at. It'll be hard to get 2.7 mills out of the debt service levy, but we may be able to get it from a combination of all 3 levies, and that's what we want to talk about. Because of the budget habits of the county council over the past 11 years, we have seen Newberry County's millage dropped to its lowest total since 2005. So for the current year, we have the lowest property tax levy by county council that we've had since 2005. We also have seen that Newberry County's property taxes as levied by county council is not the highest tax levy in South Carolina by county council, even though that's been said. It's untrue. It has now, in fact, officially broken into the bottom half of all South Carolina counties for taxation intensity. We are 24th highest. Means there's 23 ahead of us that are higher in the taxes and fees assessed on a $150,000 home. We are 24th highest, not the highest. So council has really put the property tax village in the right direction. Now, it speaks well of council that this 2.7 mil increase in the debt service levy would be the biggest we've seen in the past 11 years. It would be a modest increase by comparison to the previous 11-year period, where we saw 6.3 mil increases regularly on average. But the question is, how closely council can continue on this track and maybe even make it so that there's no tax millage increase, or perhaps even reduce property taxation in the coming year. The next exhibit that I want to turn your attention to is well, one was a statewide ranking of county council taxes and fees on a $150,000 home. We show you there, Exhibit 2, a chart where Newberry County is indeed the 24th highest taxing county council in the state, not the first or highest tax. In fact, we are now in the bottom half. Okay, in order to get to either a no millage increase or perhaps a millage reduction, we are going to have to look at all of the three levies. We've got to look at line items from all three levies. Staff has prepared a list of proposed amendments, all of which are cuts, and we've done it in two forms. If you'll look at Exhibits 3 and 4, one of them is multicolored, the other one has just the yellow highlighting. Has everybody got those in hand? Okay. Both Exhibits 3 and 4 contain the same cuts. However, in Exhibit 3, we have them grouped by levy. The green, those shaded in green would be cuts to the general operating budget. Those in pink would be to the community services levy budget, and the blue ones would be for the debt service levy budget. Now, in total, those cuts would, if all were enacted, would reduce the millage from what is currently proposed by 4.63 mils. In yellow is a list of cuts, this is Exhibit 4, that we feel are a lot less contentious and would bring the millage down to no increase. We would stay at 136 mils instead of going to 138.7. Instead of 138.7, we would stay at 2.6. We would stay at 136. So, what we want to do is talk about these cuts and any proposals that council might have and decide whether to consider these as amendments at second or third reading. The second reading is scheduled for this Wednesday, the 6th of May at 7 o'clock. So going through these, has everybody had a chance to read them? The first one is salary increases. If we have no salary increase for county employees, we had proposed originally a 1.5% increase, then we would save 1.2 mils right there. So 1.2 mils of the 2.7 would be erased if those salary increases were eliminated. The council contingency item number 2, while it says $101,634, the actual year-to-year increase would just be a loss of about $14,000 because we had balanced out the levy by putting additional money in the council contingency. So there's not a lot of pain there, and you can shave another 0.7 mil. Then we go to the Newberry County Museum. $70,000. If that were eliminated, it would be almost $0.5 mil. The salary increase for the recycling attendants. We have put in this budget a $1 per hour increase for the recycling attendants. And the cost of that to the county is $56,399, almost 0.4 mil. We also have some one-time purchases for equipment for the school resource officers at $33,400. That's almost $0.25 mil, but that's probably something we can do in the current year. Sheriff, I don't know if those people will be hired that soon or what the schedule is.
I don't
But if so, we could pay for that in the current year. The Newberry Opera House gets $25,000 per year from the county. That is equal to 17/100ths of a mil. Reduced capital repairs this is an item for the gas line for the jail. I can tell you this is the easiest one of all of them because it's already been done. So we don't need it in next year's budget. That $20,000 has already been spent. So that one is, as they say, a no-brainer. We were able to offer an amendment to reduce the sheriff's fuel budget by $17,000. This is 12/100ths of a mil. Reduce fleet maintenance contracted services by $8,000. That's 6/100ths of a mil. A lot of these are very small. Repairs to the Helena Community Center, eliminating that, 6/100ths of a mil. We have agencies like Newberry Literacy, 4/100ths of a mil. Reduce our GIS contract, which I think that's something we're going to, that's already pretty much done, really. It was done after we gave you the initial draft of the budget, but that's only 3/100ths of a mil. Small Business Development Center gets $5,000. That and the free medical clinic and the Chamber of Commerce video, all those three items, $5,000 each. Each one can take out 3/100ths of a mil. Community hall repairs, $4,000, saves 3/100ths. Sexual trauma services, 3/100ths per mil at $4,250. The Comet, which is the bus service that is operated by Central Midlands RTA, eliminating that $2,500 would save 2/100ths of a mil. Sister Care, likewise, 2/100ths. The Village Cemetery, for which we appropriate $2,000, is 1/100th. So are the Christmas lights, roughly $1,500, and Newberry Downtown Development at $1,000. All of those items in green, the ones we just discussed, would eliminate 3.84 mils if they were all agreed to. So I guess the question for staff has for council is, what sort of amendment do you want us to prepare for the general operating side? Which of those might you want us to include?
All right, you've heard the report by Mr. Adams, and I guess best thing for us to do is probably just go council member by council member and just see what you think about what's already highlighted, or if there are other items that you would like, or other things that's not even on the sheet. So with that being said, Mr. Scurry, would you like to just, are you okay with what's on the highlighted list? You want things taken off the highlighted list? What's your opinion?
Where we at now, it's not gonna pull in a bind, but next year, cutting as much.
Well, we have to see what the value of a mill does.
Right.
I mean, it might outperform our estimates, our resources might be greater. We'll have to also look at things like the local government fund. How is that going to change with the COVID-19 economic crisis and the state losing lots of revenue? We don't know the full story on that just yet.
I think it's a good question too. The biggest thing is I don't know that we want to put anything in recurring cost in a budget when we got so much uncertainty going on right now.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, anything else, Mr. Scurry?
We'll go for it like this.
Well,
Okay.
Mr.
Dr. Rucker?
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Chairman, if I may, when we say go with it like it is, that would be all of the green items. That's 22 items. There is, again, this list of items that is, I guess we regard it on the staff side as the starter list. The yellow ones that correspond to the 22 on here would be the easier ones to stomach, I think.
I think that's what he's talking about.
Okay, so you're talking about
The
Exhibit
11,
4.
the 11 items that have been
Yeah.
designated as.
Right, he's talking about items on Exhibit 4. Again,
Right.
yeah, okay. Let me say what those are, because there are some people, probably thousands out there watching. But of that list, here are the ones that are in the general operating. We have the salary increases being eliminated, council contingency being reduced, the one-time equipment purchases for resource officers eliminated, the capital repairs for the jail gas line, sheriff's fuel budget, reducing the fleet maintenance contract, taking out repairs for Helena and Community Hall, reducing our GIS contract, which is basically already done, and taking out a $5,000 video for the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is still getting money. Tell us what sort of things they have.
The usual, the AgriFest. and
AgriFest is funded.
The leadership program.
The leadership is program, and that's a new item that's only been in a few years. We didn't take that out. And of course, the county provides the office space and the utilities and everything for the Chamber of Commerce, so it's not like they're being cut out.
So that, I mean, it's a new item.
It's a new item,
Period.
yeah.
Yeah.
But those items together in the list Mr. Scurry mentioned in Exhibit 4, they total 2.71 mils if you take all of them. Now, that includes one from debt service that we'll talk about a little bit later that's fairly small.
Okay, Dr. Rucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the yellow coded sheet. One of the things I think that breaks my heart is to not give the salary increases. And I would like to just say that perhaps later, at this time, I think we all have to think about all the people who've lost jobs and who are out of work. But I'd like to think that perhaps later we could go back and reconsider once we know something about funding and so forth and so on, that we could consider increases of some sort for our employees. But at this point, knowing what we know about how employment and so forth is, that we certainly can't do increases for our employees. And I would be in favor of the others that are marked.
Okay. All right. Mr. Reader?
Yes, I totally agree with Exhibit 4 with a question mark, as we can look at it later on if it's necessary to be done. But as of right now, yes, Exhibit 4 would be what I would be looking at.
All right, Mr. Kane, I know you weren't here last budget work session, so you didn't get to have any input into it that particular time, and I know you said that we've got one of the highest taxes in the state, so is there anything on here and anything else that you would like to consider since that has been kind of the premonition?
Well, yeah, actually I do, because what we're looking at, and I mean, is with the virus, all the industry shut down, everything that we have, all our economy is, none of the restaurants open, only the essential businesses are. There's states that are out there that are going, I think one of them just did a 14% cut across the whole board. I mean, what we get handed and what we get are, I mean, bits and pieces, and I mean, it comes up to 300, almost 400,000, but I think what we really need to do this year, and it's because of the virus and because everything that the county's going through, all the unemployment, because I think when we start opening up the economy again, we're still going to have viruses. We don't have, we do not have a vaccine for it, and we don't have an antidote to do it. And people are going to go back to work, but I mean, we've got companies that are still shut down because they have so many virus cases doing that. So I think a 1.5 might be historical for county growth, but I don't see that this year. I mean, I don't see us growing. I don't see anybody growing any economy, whether it's us or any other county, by that amount. What I would like to see is more that we go back to our directors and say, okay, and cut our operating budget. I mean, what we do on operating all the time, not just individual, these kind of things, but give it back to our directors and go, hey, you got a 3 or 5% cut this year in your budget. And then let's see what we got when we get through. I mean, I don't think we can, you know, we had a huge increase last year in taxes. I don't think we ought to even hold them steady this year, because we have a lot of people that are out of work and struggling. I mean, we got people that aren't making rent, they aren't, you know, we're in bad shape. I think we need to recognize that as a council and do something for that.
Mr. Adams, can you address the huge increase last year?
Yeah, it was a 6.2 mil decrease is what we had.
Six-
So I'm
yeah.
not sure where this narrative is coming from, about we have some of the highest taxes in the state, and taxes are going up when they're going down.
I think if everybody I talked to, taxes went up. I think our average tax increase if you do the 5.6, and then you add, 1.9, you come up with a 6.5%. Is that right?
I don't know what you're talking about, to be quite
Let's
honest.
see, it's a 7,
Yeah.
it's almost a 7% tax increase, the average tax increase that
Listen,
we
the
have. for
three of
county.
us here deal more intimately with the finances and the tax revenue than just about anybody in the county. We saw a 6.2 mil decrease. Why you want to persist in calling that a tax increase, I don't know.
Well-
But not in this room and not while I'm here.
Well, because the 6.2 was mandated by the state, and it went from 125 to 122.
So
ish.
a 6.2 mil increase was mandated by the state, but we had a tax increase?
Because you increased everybody's property tax by 5.6% on the average, and then we added another almost 2% on top of that.
Absolutely not.
That's not true.
You are misinformed.
Well, those are the numbers y'all gave us.
That's not true.
All right, any other comments, Mr. King?
No, sir.
All right, Steve?
I'm in favor of Exhibit 4. I think if we can, or if administration can balance the budget and we not increase it, I think that is a good starting place. Number 18 on there, the comment. Not real sure if that's a necessary expense. Now, I might be wrong, but is that service really benefiting Newberry County?
It's brand new. I think they want to come again on May 6th. Taylor, are they coming on May 6th? Okay. They want to come back and talk about ridership since last year when we went through the budget. We had nothing for them last year, and we said we would put in $2,500 this year. They asked for $5,000. So I think you might want to hear what's going on with the ridership and how much people are actually using it.
Okay. Not a problem. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask a question, but is there any monies appropriated for new employees in any department?
I don't know of any.
No, sir.
Okay,
Let's think about that and make sure I don't know of any that are added.
No, we took them all out.
Okay.
They're all
Okay.
out.
okay, because right now at this point in time, I mean, with what we're going through, it's my opinion, we'll never be back to normal. Now, we may get back to what they call a new normal, and that's not gonna be close to where we were.
Yeah.
We don't know how long it's gonna take to get through this pandemic, to get through the virus. And so I definitely don't wanna see us increase taxes by any means. If there's any way to reduce them a little bit, then that would be great too. But I think if we can keep it balanced and not increase taxes, that would be great.
You through, Steve? Mr. Coon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have two exhibit sheets here. One is Exhibit 4 and one is Exhibit 3. my understanding that Exhibit 4 reduces taxes to leave the tax levy at what it was last year. There would be no tax increase this year. If we went with Exhibit 3, that would not only decrease and put us back to where we were last year, but it would decrease last year's by 1.9 mils.
Correct. It would,
So
it
we
would go
could-
down to,
we
from
could cut-
136 mils to 134.1.
If we do Exhibit 3, we could cut taxes by 1.9 mils
Correct.
below what we had last year.
Correct.
We have things what we call essential services and non-essential services, governmental and non-governmental. I think that all non-governmental and all non-essential services should be eliminated, cut. We don't need to be funding those things. Having said that, on this list, we have salary increases for all employees, that would be cut. County contingency would be cut. Museum would be cut. One-time equipment purchases for school resources officers, which is the sheriff's department. He's taking the most cuts, the sheriff's department is. The opera house would be cut. Reduce facilities capital repair. That has already been done on the gas line.
Yes, that's already
That's already
completed.
been done. The sheriff's fuel, which is the sheriff's department again, would be cut. Reduce fleet maintenance, contract services, that would be cut. Remove Helena Center. Site repairs would be cut. Newberry County literacy. Reduce the GIS contact matrix, which is the plane flies over your property and looks at it for assessment purposes. Small Business Development Center, medical, free medical clinic, Chamber of Commerce video, remove community hall, site repairs, sexual trauma services, Comet, sister care, village cemetery, Christmas lights, Newberry downtown development, community services levy. Remove bumper, tanker, and I don't think we've discussed the bumper tanker.
But we'll do
but
that in the debt service.
But that is debt service and that is fire, which is an essential part of our government funding. Remove 2 sheriff's resource officers vehicles, and I believe that was the entire list.
Yes, sir, that's for all.
I only
three
have
roads.
2 items that I would like to talk about on that list, possibly leaving on the list. And that would be salary increases for the recycling attendants. That's only $1 on the hour. They haven't had any kind of pay increase for 6 years, I believe, or 8. Is that right, Mr. Adams?
It's been a long,
been
long
a
time.
long
They're
time.
making $8 an hour. They must be the lowest paid people in the
As
county.
far as any kind of salary increase, that would be the only one that I would look at all. And possibly the bumper tanker, if they can live without that for another year, that's fine. But as I said, we have essentials, non-essentials, we have governmental agencies and non-governmental agencies. If they're non-governmental, we do not need to fund them. If they are governmental agencies, we need to fund them. If they're essential, we need to fund them. If they're non-essential, we do not need to fund them. Having said that, I'm turning it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks, Kirk, appreciate your input there. Well, first of all, I agree with the Exhibit 4. I feel that when you look at a 2.71 increase, we're negating that, so that's taking away, we're back to a balanced budget from what we were last year, which is pretty good, especially when you look at the amount of stuff that's basically coming from the state. The retirement has gone up again, am I correct, Debbie?
It will continue to 2022 at least.
And that is approximately, hate to put you on the
General operating levy tab. Under the
But
expenditures.
technically, we've got several unfunded mandates with no money coming in, obviously, to pay for them, that we as a council really have no control over. So to keep it with no increases and still absorb those,
127,140.
which is almost the equivalent of a meal,
Yeah, almost.
and we're pretty much absorbing that into the budget.
Our tort liability insurance going up $39,000
Right.
on top of that. And of course, local government fund is kind of, we are hearing that there's still going to be an increase. That's the latest that I've heard. That's been a couple of weeks. I don't know if that assessment of things has changed or not. We're not really banking on getting any additional revenue, I don't think.
It would be probably small if we did.
Yeah, it would have been small anyway, so I mean,
82,000.
did we count the 82? Because I think because the association said that they thought that was staying in. Okay, so we did count that. But our total from them is, what's the total of that revenue item?
1,638,663, an increase of 89,797 from prior year.
So it's 1.6 million out of 27 million. And the question is, are we gonna get all of that? The most recent word we have is yes, but of course that could change.
And then, as Kirk was saying, a couple things that, Newberry Museum, with it not being open, could it be prorated down some? Same with the Opera House. Of course, in the times that we're in, the free medical clinic probably is something that's probably needed more than ever, so I kind of have a problem eliminating that one. Sister Care is another one with the, basically the stage of where we are within our world right now, and some of the things that are happening, I have a little concern with that. Taking that out, but as a whole, I think the administration has done a great job at 2.71. I know I've heard throughout that pretty much being echoed, the sentiment's pretty similar. I think the only thing, Scott, you had said something about looking at all departments and cutting across the board. I don't know that I can agree with that. We just got our law enforcement bumped up somewhat to where we are competitive, or at least being able to maintain and recruit. That being one of our most essential sources of what we need to provide is the infrastructure for care of our citizens, whether it be EMS, EMT, law enforcement, fire rescue. Those are the things that I think we are definitely charged with the responsibility of. I would hate to go and cut some of those departments that we really, really, really are, I think, charged with the responsibility of providing for our citizens. So anyway, with that being said, that's kind of where I am. Wayne, you want to take it from there?
Well, with that input, would it be in order to prepare an amendment for second reading that gets us everything that's highlighted here in yellow and the 2.71 mils? That would bring us back to, we would know after second reading, there's no tax increase.
Yes.
Correct. I think let's start with that, and then again, we can look at the other possibilities. We may have another idea of whether there's any additional funding coming.
Okay. Would it be permissible to council if we show these in a bundle, or do you want to have a vote on each and every one of them?
A bundle,
Yeah.
A single vote?
yes.
Okay. We'll enumerate what it is. Every agency would be in there, the amount would be in there, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I understand why you want a bundle, but I'm not a bundle person. But I'm gonna go along with whatever the majority of council decides on. But I do like to have item, line item by line item, and not bundling, so you have to take one or all, or none or all. So that's my opinion.
We can make it We can
Let's
make
do
it
it item by
individual.
item, that way if it's a
If that's,
special.
yes.
Yes, I mean, I think that's reasonable.
Yes,
Just 11
It'll just take a
votes,
little
so-
longer to go through the readings, but
That's
that's
right.
worth it.
but if he wants to do that, that's
Yes,
fine
correct.
with me.
Okay.
Is that fine with you, Mr. Scurry?
Just item by item.
Okay.
Now, on the debt service levy, I'm sorry, we'll go first talk about community services levy. We showed that staying at the same millage, which is 6.9 mils for the upcoming year, that levy, because of the growth in the value of the mill, would produce another $28,000. And we have proposed to, in the original budget, to just divide that proportionately among the entities that are covered there, which are the library system, Piedmont Tech, and disabilities and special needs. Now, there is the possibility of an amendment, and it's on this sheet in pink, that would take it back to 6.7 mils. So you could save almost 2/10 of a mil there if you reduce, if you don't give them the benefit of the growth. That's the only amendment for the community services levy. So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to gauge the thoughts on that, or,
All right, we'll just start on the end. What's your thoughts on that? Leave it in, take it out. It's $28,313.19 meals. And that's for Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, Newberry Library, and Piedmont Tech. Am I correct, Mr. Adams?
yes, sir.
Leave it in or take it out?
Did they all make a request?
Yes, and their requests were $1,268,161, all total. County has agreed basically to give them, $1,003,584 again. So that's, in last year's budget was $975,478, so basically we're increasing their budgets by $28,313. Those three combined.
Those three are not open as we speak. Is that correct?
No, I don't think any of those are open as we speak.
As we speak, those three are not in operation.
Okay.
I don't know about the disabilities and special needs, they may still be providing services.
That- They may, I'm sure they're providing some type service,
We're
like,
not providing our cleaning service right now. We have not since the COVID started.
I doubt they are.
And they may be doing things elsewhere, but not for us.
but the library is shut down
I'd say
in
take it
Piedmont
out.
Tech, or both.
Are they
The
still?
Closed.
library's employees are
I'd say
working
take it out
at
because they're state functions.
some capacity. There's just no admittance to the public. They may be doing online things.
But this would not be cutting their salaries and messing with their salaries. What's in the budget for last year would still be there for their, okay.
And we can still look at it
I'd say take it out.
as things progress or don't progress. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, even if you talk about the library, you're only talking about $14,000. If you're talking about the disabilities and special needs, you're only talking $1,100. And, $3,000 for the Piedmont Tech, so it's not gonna be a game changer either way.
So take it out. Are you saying take it out?
I think we take it out and reassess where we are at a later time.
I
Okay,
agree.
sounds good.
What, is it possible to split it up, Wayne? And give the disabilities and special needs there $1,100?
It is possible, yes.
And leave the other two as is? That would be, I just know those folks. If anybody needs money and needs a little help, I'm sure they do. But that would be my suggestion, if that could work. Just my thoughts.
That's what we're talking about, is it not?
Well, we talked about taking it all out. But, I mean, if you wanna leave $1,100 in for them, again,
You could just, if you only want the $1,100, you can fund that out of council contingency.
yeah.
Yeah,
To them
that's what I'm
specifically.
thinking.
Okay.
Because you still have, what is the council contingency number, Debbie? If the amendments are approved that we talked about earlier.
That would be 185,763.
So you'd still have $185,000 from which to dispense this $1,100. So,
I think it'd be easier just to make a clean sweep, and then if we want to reinstate any of it, we could.
That'll work. I agree.
All right, so look at that, that point 19.
okay. Then we go to the debt service levy, and this is where we actually have all of the increase for next year. Community services levy, right now is at the same millage as before, and so is the general operating levy. It's the debt service levy that is going up. And I think we should probably talk a little bit about why it's going up. It doesn't have to do, oddly enough, with increased spending. In fact, the year-to-year increase is only $21,689, and this is out of a $1.5 million budget. The reason that we're going up is because there's always this wild card that council can't control. The auditor can't control it either, really, but some years she has funding where she can pay down debt, and some years she doesn't. Well, this year we have from her about $106,000, whereas last year we had about $410,000. So the difference there is what we're cutting through all these levies. That's what we've got to pay the debt. Now, we do have some new spending in there that could, if eliminated, could lighten the load a bit. And one thing is the pumper tanker for the fire department. We're in the process of buying at least 5 of these. This would be the third. Is that right, Debbie? This would be the third one. And the cost of that is about $325,000. And that is near $500,000 per year. And then we have the 2 vehicles for the sheriff's school resource officers. That would mean if this were cut, we would have 4 new officers, but we wouldn't buy any new cars, right? Or we would buy 2. We would buy 2, I'm sorry. So instead of buying 4 cars for the 4 new resource officers, we'd only be buying 2. That would cut you another 12/100ths of a mil. So those are the items that we have under debt service. A lot of this is amortizations that are based on 5-year purchase cycles, and a lot of these are we're still paying on them. You can't not pay them. So.
All right, you've heard Mr. Adams' explanation of that. Of course, 1 ambulance at $174,000, 1 pumper tanker at $325,000, 2 heart monitors at $70,000. And then the school resource officer vehicles. Is the motor grader included in that, Wayne?
We did not put that in there because we think the repairs on the current one is going to cost us more than amortization on a new one, at least over the next couple of years. It stays in. The motor grader is not taken out by any of this. It remains in.
Okay. I'm just gonna speak, and then y'all can either agree, disagree, or whatever. We'll go from there. I personally, when we talk about essential services that we are to provide, I have a hard time cutting an ambulance because some people may call and complain about taxes or whatever, but when you go to talking about an ambulance, if they don't have somebody to come pick up their loved one in a vehicle that's working or whatever, I think there's a problem there. Pumper tanker, same thing. If you got a fire, you want it to be in workable condition. heart monitors, again, technology, et cetera, the stuff that can help and make a difference in whether somebody lives or dies. $70,000 is a minimum expense to put out there for that. Of course, the state again mandated the school resource officers, so even though it's not technically an unfunded mandate, it's technically an unfunded mandate, but I think we probably might have to do that. And of course, when you look at the number of miles of roads that we have to maintain with our public works department, especially, again, not saying that we're gonna continue having the rain that we've had, but boy, the amount of gravel roads and all that they have to take care of, dirt roads, whatever you wanna call them, I think that's pretty much the essential thing, because I know I live out in one of the rural areas, and I get calls when the roads aren't right. We've gotta keep that, and it goes back to one of those old sayings, pay me now, pay me later. Sooner or later, we're gonna have to have that motor grader. So, again, I've thrown out the commentary. What else? I mean, anybody else got any other thoughts, different from mine on that?
I agree, because I think that's basically what the taxpayer money is supposed to be used for.
I agree with that.
I also agree, and that's what I said before, essentials and non-essentials, and these are essentials. And I did have to use an ambulance back before the first of the year, and I wasn't driving.
Yeah. Okay, so Wayne, I think you got to go ahead with, or the go-ahead's there for that one.
Okay, we're keeping the SRO vehicles in.
Didn't we say 2 or 4? Two.
The cut would,
that's
cut
one
number
of the
25
cuts.
would take out 2 of them,
Yeah.
2 of the 4.
Right,
So we bring that up for a vote?
yes.
Okay. All right,
Is that not what we said over here?
yes, it's 2 and not 4. 4
Yeah,
new
just-
officers, 2 new cars.
Just the 2.
Correct, correct. So I think that's all of the cuts that we've had. Is that all of them, Debbie?
Yes, sir.
We got through the list there? And we can prepare amendments for those items. We have salary increases, council contingency, one-time equipment purchases for SROs, facility capital repairs for the jail, sheriff's fuel, reduced fleet maintenance contracted services, remove Helena Center site repairs, reduce GIS flyover contract, take out $5,000 for Chamber of Commerce video, and remove $4,000 for community hall site repairs. Mr. Stockman asked about taking out the comment. Is there consensus on that?
No.
No, not yet. Okay.
I do think it's used some.
Okay. The community services levy increase will be eliminated. They'll get the same money as last year, not the benefit of the increased mill value. And remove 2 SRO vehicles for 12 100ths of a mill. So those, is it agreeable to take those up at second reading? Actually, I think you'll be less than, a little bit fractionally less millage than the prior year, if all of those are approved. Now, we talked about, if you look in the front of your books, you see the budget calendar. That's been changed a little bit because of the coronavirus. For instance, tonight's work session was not originally part of that schedule. We have our public hearing on May 20th instead of on May 6th, when it was originally planned. And there was another budget work session scheduled for May 11th, which is next Monday night. So I don't know whether we want to have that one or not. I guess we need some input from the council on that.
Well, after we do the second reading Wednesday night, we still got plenty of time to post as to whether we have that one, correct?
5 days.
Yeah, posted by Friday.
Yeah, well, so we'd still have 2 days if we have additional stuff that comes about of Wednesday night's meeting that we needed to.
Okay.
We can make that decision at
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night's meeting.
Okay. All right.
So then the public hearing on the 20th?
Yes, ma'am. It has been advertised already for the 20th.
Yes, sir. I just want a clarification from my point.
Okay.
Mr. Coon had asked that they be all done individually, but we're only gonna do amendments for the ones highlighted in yellow. But this
No,
is-
the ones I just read off. There are several that aren't, three that are not highlighted in yellow that are in here. So it's the yellow plus comment, community services levy, and remove 2 SRO vehicles.
Thank you.
Okay. The agenda says, Mr. Chairman, we are going to talk about capital budgets. Obviously, those are all in your notebooks. There are 16 of them proposed for 2021, and the 6 of them are funded by the capital project sales tax revenue, the penny sales tax. The other 10 total $1,910,600, and they're funded through a combination of agency grants, which was $535,022, bonded indebtedness, $1,138,177, and fund balance, $234,401. We did not prepare any amendments relative to the capital budgets.
Okay, any comments regarding the, capital budgeting fund, capital budgeting? I think that's pretty much the essential things again. All right, fund balance?
Yes, sir. Staff is projecting unassigned fund balance on June 30, 2020 of $14.8 million. And even if the general operating budget were adopted as proposed, that would leave 6.5 months of operating expenses on hand.
So when you look at 6.5, that's kind of in the band of what is recommended, maybe a little bit on the high end of what's
A little bit.
recommended, but when you're in uncertain times as we are right now, it probably would be better to have a little more than a little less.
That has in the past given us some great flexibility to attract economic development projects
Correct.
that we would not have been able to. Samsung's an example.
Okay, any questions on the fund balance? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed on. Item number 6, consideration of annual indexing of elected official salaries. And let me, before you go explaining that one, I just want to say to the general public and to those here, that does, general elected officials, that does not include any of us sitting here on this, as county council members. We are not included in salary increases, et cetera, when this is overall said, just to make that clear for the record.
We're talking about countywide elected only. Originally, we had proposed 1.5%, which was the same we were proposing for the employees at large. And the amendment, if voted on, as discussed, would eliminate that salary increase for the countywide elected officials as well. Now, there's a specific ordinance adopted by council in 2017 that says that by the first meeting in May, which would be Wednesday, council has to decide basically whether or not to give the elected officials the CPI for the previous year, Consumer Price Index, which coincidentally is 1.5%. But if council votes otherwise not to give them that raise, then they don't have to give it. It just says, unless you act otherwise, if you do nothing, the default is a CPI. But we'll have a vote on the May 6th, on Wednesday's agenda to address that. And generally what happens is council says, well, let's give them the same thing we're giving all other employees. And in this case, that's no raise.
All right, any further explanations needed on that?
I think that's how our elected officials would feel.
I think that would be definitely true. All right, I'm going to jump to 8 on public comment since it's a little different tonight than it has been. Did we have anybody email any comments or anything in? Nobody emailed anything in. Just wanted to have, in case there were, I wanted to have council to be able to address any comments that came in from the general public. So since we do know that there are no public comments, we'll go back to item number 7, which is question comments from council members. Mr. Scurry.
We're still gonna meet on the 6th to pass
Yes, sir, Wednesday night, regular meeting.
Dr. Rucker,
I have none.
Mr. Reader,
I have none.
Mr. Kane.
As we open back up the economy, boy, everybody needs to stay safe, please.
All right, Mr. Stockman.
Feel like we had a great work session. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, staff. We're headed in the right direction.
Mr. Coon.
One thing, it has been told that Kurt Coon is not running for county council. Well, I'm here to tell you I'm alive and well, and I was the first person to sign up to run for county council this year. So I will be on the ballot in November. So if anyone has led you to believe that I would not be on the ballot, then they told you a lie. I will be on the ballot in November. Thank you.
Well, two things. I'll follow up on that one. Courtesy, there was a couple of us standing in the back talking, and we were talking about how much better you look. Just want you to understand that's health-wise, not, overall. And I'm also somewhat envious of your haircut since you can't get your haircut. I'm just kind of looking shaggy, so somewhat envious of your haircut there.
I'll volunteer to cut yours.
All right, I don't want to look like Kirsty when it's all said and done. And then the other thing is, please keep Kelly Nobles and her family in your thoughts and prayers as she lost her husband, which he's our probate judge for Newberry County. So, and again, all the other people who are having trials and tribulations that's going on within their little world that we are so shattered with right now. So with that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We adjourn.